Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. My clock says 9:05, and the clock ahead of us says 9:12. Call the meeting to order. And now we will call for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. There's a small flag right there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now for our roll call. Please state aye if you are present. Matt Smith, Ryan Mace, Barbara Tallman.
Yes, here.
Cheryl Caswell. Yes, here. I'm sorry.
Scott Stewart.
Scott Stewart, present, and
Joel Stribla.
Joel Stribla, and Constance Hargrove, representing the Pima County Elections Department, is present. Wonderful. And now for the call to the public. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Written comments can be electronically submitted. Commission members may not discuss or take action on matters raised during the call to public that are not identified on the agenda. Do we have any members from the public wishing to address us today? Okay, thank you.
We have a new arrival.
Yes, we do have a new arrival. As we just think we have done our meeting, Ryan has come, and I think we have now a quorum, but not 2/3. Therefore, I do believe we can move into a discussion and approval of the minutes with a quorum present. Are there any amendments to the minutes as they were presented?
I have none. I have none.
Seeing no amendments to the minutes as they were presented, the minutes are approved as presented. Moving on to the next item in the agenda, item number 5. We have not achieved the 2/3 requirement to hold an election of vice chair, so we will have to now table that item to the next meeting. We'll move on to item 5B, update on general election preparations. I believe that is an agenda item added by our which commissioner, or is it?
But it's routine.
Okay, I'm sorry. And so we will ask for that general election update from our elections department, Constance Hargrove.
Good morning, Commissioners. The election programming is complete, and as we completed election programming, we determined that we are now going to have a 2-card ballot for all ballot styles, except for they're federal only, so a 2-card ballot. The first page of the first card has all of the candidates and offices on it, and then the subsequent pages are all propositions. So first we have 13 statewide propositions, and then there are some local propositions that we have on the ballot. We are in the process of proofing sample ballots. The sample ballot will include a full-page insert of the propositions, as well as an insert listing of the vote centers. The vote centers list will not have a date on it in the sample ballot for this election, and the vote center list will not have numbers. It's just going to be in alphabetical order. So that's a little bit of a change for the sample ballot. Vote centers did not change, so there's no change from the primary election. They're still the same vote centers. We are 99% complete in filling all of our poll worker positions. We had the majority of the poll workers stay from the primary election, and we are mostly filling standby positions for vote centers. We're also in the process of developing processes and procedures on how to handle the 2-card ballot. So this is new for Pima County. We've not had a 2-card ballot be some consistency in what we do, but we're working on that. Let's see, what else are we doing here? Logic and accuracy testing will begin next week, beginning with the in-house logic and accuracy test. Then the political parties will have their test, and then finally the Secretary of State on October the 7th will be the final logic and accuracy test before the election. Poll worker training begins on Monday. We are encouraging clerks who've already attended an in-person class to take out online training because they're not actually required to do training. So if they've already had training in person, we're encouraging them to do our online training. And we have several outreach events scheduled prior to the election. Outreach beginning on actually Monday, which I've forgotten about, so Monday evening with the NAACP. And then other events beginning on September 28th through October the 12th. We will have outreach events. We're going to be on U of A campus on October 2nd for our outreach event with the recorder's office. New for our office, we will have a hallway installed in the public viewing hallway for this election. So we will have security guards there to monitor that, anybody who comes in. Of course, you know, you're not supposed to bring a weapon in anyway, but, you know, just in case somebody forgets, we will have gun lockers available for them to store their gun. And let's see. Oh, just a heads up that election night results from vote centers may be a little delayed depending on how many ballots they have to count on election night. So if we're expecting a vote center to have 3,000 voters, then that means they're counting 6,000 ballots. So just keep that in mind as you get to election night and those vote centers start coming in. And I think that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Question about staffing the boards. Have you filled all the staffing for the boards, temporary?
You mean all the boards? Oh, which boards?
Well, your processing boards.
The processing boards, yes. So I think we had interviews this week, and I think we filled the last positions this week. Is that correct? So you will probably hear that we did go back and take a look at our boards according to statute. We right-sized them, making sure that we had Democrats and Republicans as teams, or another party, if it was Green Libertarian, so a party, correct? And so, so there were some independents and P&Ds that kind of got shifted and, you know, will not be assigned to a board, processing board or adjudication board. But because of the volume of ballots that we're going to get in and the difficulty of keeping track of everything, there is another position now. It's like an affidavit verifier, is it? Affidavit envelope verifier, we don't know what we're calling it. Anyway, so this position basically can be independent of P&D because they're basically just verifying that everything has been taken out of the envelope. So, so that's new. And yes, but other than that, yes, our boards are.
Good. And will you be running the adjudication concurrent with tabulation, or will it come after tabulation?
We will run the adjudication as concurrent as possible, if that makes any sense. So if we have enough ballots that we've been able to process, then yes, we will run adjudication concurrently.
Okay. Well, I was particularly asking in terms of observers of adjudication. If we have observers in processing and the adjudication starts, then probably we should shift them over to adjudication to watch that.
Yes, Commissioner Tillman, that works for me. If they're there in the processing room and they want to stay and be the observer for the adjudication room, as long as the party chairs are okay with that, I do not have a problem with that.
So we just certify them for both?
Yes, you can.
I have a question about
Oh,
the,
I think Matt had.
oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yes, does the voting vary amongst the polling stations first? Are there more people that vote on the same day in the south side as opposed to the north side, or is it about the same everywhere?
Commissioner Smith,
In
that's an
terms of
excellent
same-day voting.
question, and I really don't have an answer for that. I've not really seen a trend. I know that, the vote centers, or Valley, Library, and, it's not all in the same area, so no, I do not have an answer for that, but I guess we could take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, regarding the metal detector, that's pretty new, right? Is that being done out just out of an abundance of caution, or is there a specific reason for that?
Commissioner East, it is out of an abundance of caution, obviously. I've added security guards to my office for the last couple of elections, out of an abundance of caution. Just not knowing what may happen and who may come in. So yeah, nothing has happened.
Okay. And is that private security or is that sheriff's department?
Private security.
Private security.
Are there any other questions?
Yes. How much did your staff grow to cover this general election? 50%? Do you have an idea?
So as far as permanent staff, intermittent staff,
Compared to the primary, how much did you feel you needed to increase the size of your staff to process the election?
we did not increase it.
So it's the same size
It is
as,
the same size. Now, the boards, have increased.
that's what I meant.
Oh, the boards,
Pardon
yes.
me.
So, Vanessa, how many more have we added?
I think we've added an additional 10 boards that we have.
Okay. So that's what, about a 30% increase in your board size, something like that? I'm going based on observations from the primary.
How many did we have in the primary?
Probably
12 processing, and then how many adjudication?
4.
4. So we're at 16, and we're now at 20 something. Okay.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to have a feel for that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Do you know when sample ballots are gonna go out in the mail?
Simple ballots always go out 10 days prior to the election.
10 days prior to the, yeah. I remember when election day was held on election day. We do early voting, practically a month earlier. So when do the ballots go out? 10 days prior to the general election day statutory, or prior to when early voting starts?
10 days prior to the actual election day.
Thank you.
I think it's scheduled to be mailed October 18th.
Okay, thank you.
So a little bit earlier.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you very much, Director Hargrove. We will move on to item number C, discussion on the Supreme Court ruling on citizen proof for registration.
There's no one from the recorder's office?
No.
No.
All right.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
there has been no rule. If this is this the last
Yes,
court
that's still,
hearing we're speaking of, or were they just?
The one regarding federal ballots and the status of people who can get federal ballots if they haven't, or can get state ballots if they're only federal, and they can, do they have to, whatever they have to prove. It's a complicated ruling on that, I believe.
Right, so the last one,
The glitch from the Department of Transportation.
right, so the last one has not been ruled on yet, still in the courts. There is guidance, which I won't get into because I don't have it in front of me, from the Secretary of State for the other ruling, but I do not have that in front of me, so.
yes, so there is currently a case pending that will be ruling on about 100,000 federally voters currently regarding that proof of citizenship.
And the other one is waiting for Attorney General's opinion on how to handle this crisis.
Is there any questions anyone has on that? We'll move on to item number
Excuse me,
Yes.
Cheryl, will we get an update on that at the next meeting, the 16th of October?
So I will say if the recorder's office is here, you will definitely get an update because I do not actually handle voter registration.
Understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So can we make a request for the recorder's office to update?
Yes, we can,
Commission.
yes. When we get to adding items to the future agenda,
Okay,
that can be added to have them report.
thank you.
Moving on to item D, we also had a discussion update on the Pima County Recorder's Office chain of custody based on call to public documents with the Recorder's Office not here to address that. We do not have an update from the Recorder's Office, so we will move on then also to item E.
So we're gonna move item D into future agenda?
It may move to future agenda items, yes, sir.
Except that when we move it, let's change it, take out the word primary so it applies to both elections.
Thank you for the recommendation. Any other items to recommend on those two? Moving forward, we will go on to item agenda E. Discussion on emergency voting to final weekend voting as outlined in Governor Hobbs' Elections Task Force. This is part of the EIC's movement through that task force document, and I believe Vanessa included that document in the call to meeting. Is there any discussion on that item? Okay, moving on, we will now move on to item agenda F. Discussion on the ballot return interference as outlined in Governor Hobbs' Election Integrity Task Force document as well. And that was also provided in the documents for this call to meeting. Is there any discussion regarding that item for ballot return?
Well, what is it people are complaining about? If a citizen observes people dropping off a large number of ballots and records that, I don't really think I have an issue with that by itself. If they are confrontational, that's a different story. I think what we don't want to have is a bunch of ballot harvesting and then people dropping off a bunch of things. I think ballot harvesting is illegal in Arizona, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think it's illegal everywhere.
I would think so too, but, you know, there are a lot of things that I would have thought years ago that are impossible that are now routine. So what is it that is being complained about? And why we have this recommendation? Or the issue? I mean, the issue was addressed in the Elections Task Force report, so I guess I don't understand.
I believe that within the document, it has included information on page 26 regarding possible legislation being recommended to deal with some of the issues. And so I think that is where we stand at this point in the task force. These issues are being discussed, and they're being recommended to be addressed in the future in our legislature with
Okay.
amendments to our ARS. And that would include teeth. It appears to interfering with someone dropping off ballots.
Okay.
So, question, do we video monitor from the county perspective, the drop boxes, or are they unmonitored 24/7 or partially monitored 24/7, or do we know?
So, Commissioner Cashwell,
Yes.
so standalone drop boxes. So they're at their early voting locations and at their offices. So they're in a building, basically. So I believe the interference that came up was during the 2022 election, where we had individuals in, fatigues with assault rifles and things like that, monitoring drop boxes in Maricopa County, where people felt intimidated. They felt like, they were afraid to drop off their ballots. I think this is addressing more that than just someone dropping off a couple of ballots. So, but in Arizona, for the recorder's office, I'm not sure about the cameras, but I know that she doesn't have standalone drop boxes.
Okay, so all of our drop boxes in Pima County are as in, I'll say, buildings that are part of your process, or part of your system.
That is correct. I believe she may, for the general election, if the volume is high enough, maybe have some, where she's stationed outside under a tent with her workers there, where people could drive by and drop off their ballots. But other than that, yes, they're inside buildings.
And that's all under the recorder's office?
That is all under the recorder's office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Much of the information addressed in this section in the report has dealt with people that were maybe seen to be interfering or intimidating within the 75-foot parameter. So people were reporting that others were taking photographs or videos of voters within that 75-foot also. And so they felt that was intimidating and not acceptable within the 75-foot. And so that's most of that addressed in that language.
Okay.
And Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
I believe that for that, the legislation will clarify whether or not a drop box has a 75-foot prohibited zone, because I don't think it's clear in statute right now that it does.
That's
I
true.
would agree.
Yes, yes, yes. But they are in our vote centers, but there is actually no statute addressing that at this time.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Smith, do you have any questions online?
No, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, then I think we have moved on. We have future agenda items. There's been discussion here this evening, moving items from discussion. Item 5C, Supreme Court ruling on citizenship proof of registration in regards to federal-only ballots. That would be placed on the future agenda item. Also, discussion update on the Pima County Recorder's Office chain of custody for the 2024 elections would be moved. Is there any other items to add to a future agenda?
Yes. There's a gentleman by the name of John Roberts Brakey of Audit Elections USA that at some point I would like to see a presentation from, this body see a presentation from, on how their system works so that we can have a good, transparent audit of Arizona elections. I have seen the system demonstrated, and it's pretty impressive. This is not something that I anticipate, having anything to do with this year's election because of the timelines involved, but going forward, I think it is worth this body looking at. And I will be forwarding a couple of emails that I've gotten from him to Vanessa to forward to Constance and the chair at least to decide kind of a good timeline for inserting it in the agenda.
Thank you.
I would like to see it wait until January after we're all
Yeah.
through with this.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in trying to address this before this election is finished and all stuff associated with it cleaned up.
Okay, so not necessarily for the next meeting, but
Yeah.
for a future meeting.
Correct.
I would also like to see Mr. Brakey's presentation.
like to add to the recorder's items, the issue of the Department of Transportation glitch that may disenfranchise some voters, including myself. I'm in that category. You don't have to include myself on the agenda.
Can you refresh my memory? I'm a bearer of very little memory of what the transportation glitch is.
There is a case pending right now due to voter registration and proof of citizenship provided. Prior to 1996, there was not any documentation, and now that we've moved into an electronic system, this has become apparent. They have found some information, so they were grandfathered before 2004. There are approximately 97,841 voters. That includes Republicans, Democrats, PND, and others. That may be all a federal-only voters, but have not moved to a full ballot status. They have not provided proof of citizenship, was not required to obtain the driver's license during that time.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Castro, I'm sorry.
The other interesting information is that we are in a safe harbor period. So there's why there's a discussion about changes in elections within the 90-day period. And other discussion is regarding the Purcell principle, which is also changes to the process so close to an election. And I know both parties have also filed amicus briefs. Yes, Director Harper.
So Commissioner, so I think it's kind of the reverse of what you said. So
I'm sorry.
Right now, they're all full ballot
Yeah.
voters, but the recommendation, I believe, from the Maricopa County Recorder was that they be federal-only voters, and so now it's at the court to make a determination of how that's going to work.
Yes.
And I will say that today, probably today, tomorrow, the military overseas ballots are going out. So, ballots are already being sent out to voters that may be on that list.
So they're currently and have been voting since that time as a full ballot voter.
Right.
And that's the disenfranchisement, that they would not be voting in local
Gotcha.
offices.
Thank you.
So the next meeting date is set for October 18th. Is there any issues with any attendance on that, or are we all in agreement of keeping the date of October 18th
Works for me.
for when Chair Bickle returns? Wonderful. Then that would be our next meeting date. Thank you all very much for attending today, and we are now adjourned at 9:40.
Must be a record.
Yeah, especially so close to an election. Thank you for your report, Director Hargrove.